again, I see a lot of similarities between your business and my past too, because in my past experience with sports, finding people, I thought originally that the best franchisees were going to be the ones that loved sports and knew something about it. And it turns
Yeah.
out they were not the best franchise owners
Yeah.
because they knew something about sports. So they already had like a lot of preconceived notions on what they thought the actual operation of the business should be. And it turns out the people that had business acumen and the people that had great
Yeah.
interpersonal skills and can get into the community and all those things was far more important than whether they knew the rules of the game. And I would imagine the same thing. I can see a
Yeah.
physician who may be a brilliant physician, but could get caught up in the
Yeah.
teaching of little medical school. And well, Mary, I
Yes.
want to do it this way, or I think because they know too
Yes.
much. And that's the blessing and curse of your business and my business was.
Well, and it's funny, even from the instructor side, I get a lot of retired physicians who call me and say, "Hey, can I teach? I'd be love to teach." And that I love when people volunteer is great,
Sure.
but kids have the thing you also have to remember about after school programs and summer programs and holiday programs is the kids have been sitting around all day in school or it's
Mhm.
summer and they want to have fun and they have a lot of energy. And so you get some retired physician up there and who's maybe doesn't know how to entertain kids while they're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend a lot of time with our instructors really showing them, doing the trope, how do you really do this to control a classroom? And a lot of times the retired physicians are like, this is not what I expected. And it's like, well, it's like you in sometimes I laugh, but even though we use a lot of pre-med students in colleges instructors,
Mm-hmm.
some of my best instructors are drama students. So it's a very, you're right. There you sometimes have to sit back and say, okay, this is what I thought it was going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
boy, I was wrong. And so, but I do think it is a great franchise for people who really want to make a positive impact in their
Mm-hmm.
community. I have to say, I loved, this day I still love to teach. I love to go in and, give out the diplomas or run the kids through different, activities that we have. And, just to see those, just those beaming faces of,
Mm-hmm.
like, especially when we give them their, we do the little medical school oath based off after the Hippocratic Oath. And we give them their diploma and they take pictures with the other kids in their class. They sign each other's diplomas. Often the principal or the superintendent or, the head of the Boys and Girls Club or whoever is there will come in
Right.
and it's fantastic. It's just a great opportunity. And I've also had several corporations and businesses come in
Mm-hmm.
and ask if they can be a part of this and sponsor the cost for the kids,
Wow.
which is another, great way to do that. And, we've, another group that I've done for years is American College of Surgeons. I'll go to the clinical congress that they have every year, the big international meeting for surgeons, and the kids of the surgeons who come to the meeting, while their parents are off at their medical lectures, we're doing little medical school with them, and they love that, and they just I mean, it's just really, like I said, it's just such a rewarding. It's something that you can be proud of, and just really very rewarding, business.
Totally. Mary, what's the investment range to open a location?
So that right now the franchise fee is 35,000 with a 15,000 curriculum fee.
Okay. And how big is the territory?
So, and I can't hold me to this, but what we do, it's a number, I believe it's 100 schools, and then the corresponding zip codes. So it gives a really good size, but keep in mind, it's not just schools. You can do hospitals, you can do community centers,
Hmm.
anywhere kids go, boys and girls clubs, any type of, church run programs, so There's really so many places. Hotels are actually an interesting one.
Really?
Where, well, to go in and do a parents, like a Saturday night kids, parents night out, kids night out.
Okay.
And because all you need is a conference room. That's all you need. And so you can go in and run that. And, that is, trust me, I've been there many times where you just want to go out, you're in a town, you don't know anyone, and your only option is a babysitter for 4 hours and the kids eating out of the mini bar. So, so I think there's just a lot of opportunities. Conferences are another big one.
Okay.
Where you can go. So many conferences now are looking, kids come with their parents, especially during the summer. So conferences are looking for places for a child, for a child entertainment as well.
Okay, sweet. Mary, I'm thinking you've been franchising now for almost 10 years now,
Yeah.
and you've got 48 locations, you're in 14 states. What's your long-term vision for the company?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's we're still kind of in that COVID recovery mode, quite honestly, because I can tell you if COVID hadn't happened, I think those numbers would be much, much higher, and they were. I have to say, I think we have a winning recipe right now. I think we've got great programming. There's so many areas in the country I would love to get into.
Hmm.
And it's just trying to find the right franchisee to do it. That's really what we're hoping to do, is do a lot of domestic expansion. Also, we get a lot of interest internationally. In fact, I just had a couple countries just this week that called us, people very interested in doing
Hmm.
a master in their country.
I
I also
bet.
tell you, Canada's done really well. So Canada is, yeah, we've been really happy with the experience there. So those are also things that we're going to continue to do.
Okay. I'm going back to what you said about trying to find the right franchisee. That's always the challenge, right? It's making
Yeah.
sure that we partner up with the right franchise owner. We talked about who the ideal franchise owner is, but I haven't heard yet is I'd love to know if you think about all of your franchisees and who's the most successful and who has challenges. What would you say are maybe some of the most common traits of your most successful franchisees?
Yeah, that is a great question. I would say that one, they have to really think of this like a business. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they buy a franchise and they're like, I'm going to run this myself until I start to get some revenue, then I'll hire somebody. And that is such a mistake. You
Agree.
have to be, your time as the owner is so valuable. Hire somebody for $15 an hour. I mean, there's so many people today you can find that, especially with, because you can do this remote as well
Hmm.
if you need to,
Okay.
who's going to make those calls. Well, I should say, if you have somebody, because you need someone to make the calls to really start setting up all your accounts, all the outreach with all the different children,
Hmm.
educational opportunities out there, schools and beyond. So that I think is very important, really being able to run it like a business. And you have to spend money to make money. So
Absolutely.
although I will say on the advertising piece,
Hmm.
there's such a word of mouth on this. And it's amazing. Like you go to one, you find a parent and say, hey, we're at this great school down the street. We'd love to be in your school. And the parent will be like, oh my gosh, why aren't you in our school? And then it's like they'll introduce you to the after school coordinator. So there's a
Right.
lot of competition that works, but also we get a lot of free press, newspaper, but TV,
Hmm.
because everybody likes seeing kids, you know, dressed up and doing, it's
Yeah.
a great feel good story. So we've had a lot of success in big cities getting into newspapers and TV. The other thing is it's really has to be, and like I said, you can't fake passion. And so I
Agree.
want people who really, I need people who really believe in the mission
Mhm.
and really want to give back to the community. And giving back doesn't mean you can't make money. and but it
Right.
is, you're doing a very valuable service. Because I think the other thing that has happened in American education, whether it's right or wrong, there's, you have, certain school, when you have struggling schools, you have so much being poured in from grants and all these special programs. And then you have, the private schools that can afford to bring in, this type of, outstanding educational opportunities for the kids. But often the all the schools in the middle get
Hmm.
lost. What you're able to do with this program is to bring this, this great educational opportunity for kids, and you can bring it to all the schools in your area as a franchisee. And it's kind of like that apple pie in baseball. Oh, we don't want a program that teaches kids about, being a doctor or nurse or, a veterinarian. We don't want that. We don't want them to learn about, good health practices and how to be a good patient. So it's kind of like when you go in, I mean, it's a pretty easy, it's an easy
It
sell.
is an easy
And I'm
sell.
not a good salesman, but I mean, you really have to believe in the product.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too that I think is great about our program, and
Hmm.
we still are the only children's franchise out there that has exclusively health programming that's in depth.
Why is
So
that?
that is a great question. And, for years I was worried to death that it's like someone's going to come in and copy this when I'm
Sure.
small.
Sure.
And actually, one of my great advisors has been Maxine Clark from Build-A-Bear,
Okay.
who's also
Yeah.
here in
Oh,
St.
yeah. Yeah.
Louis. And
Yeah. Yes.
Maxine's
I was like, wait. I
fantastic.
was like, wait a
And
minute. I know that name. Okay. I remember her
yeah,
book.
no, no, she's fantastic. And, and she always told me they can't duplicate this because this is your story. They can't do
Got
it.
it. That
And
makes
so
sense.
she's like, stop worrying about that. And so,
By the way, that's a great lesson for fellow emerging founders that are listening
yeah,
to this, that fear that somebody's going to copy this, because
yeah.
people can steal your idea, but they cannot steal your culture. They cannot steal what you do. They cannot steal why you do what you do.
Well, and it was funny because there was one franchise and it was funny. It's like, why buy a little medical school when you can
Oh,
buy our curriculum? I mean, we saw it.
really?
I called the person. It's like, you can't well, it was more of a conglomerate, this whole thing of all these different STEM programming.
Oh,
But,
gosh.
the thing is with our programming is there's so many layers to it
Hmm.
that we could, we always have something to offer and we always have new things. So, and it's a great area to be in. And so, even if I have somebody else running, some of the engineering after school programs or robotic after school programs, then that says to me, it's not even competition. It just signals to me that school is interested in STEM.
Right.
And my story to them is you call them up and you say, look, if you don't, you need to expose kids to biology and medicine
Hmm.
as well, because you don't want to, you want to make sure they have a full picture. And it's great because all of our programs are STEM.org accredited.
Okay.
And the gentleman, oh, who is the CEO, he's actually a neurobiologist by training. And I remember when we first talked, he said, I'm just so happy to see programming in the biological sciences for kids.
Hmm.
What has happened is that we have so much programming, it would be hard for someone to catch up at this point.
Yeah.
And I think we have so much copyrighted, innovative teaching aids that we have developed with teachers and with healthcare professionals, which you don't see happen. And that's the other thing. So I think we've really gotten to a point that we just have this very unique offering that is very sustainable.
Sure. Well, if nothing else, the market has given you an incredibly long runway of time to
Yes.
be on your own. Since you've been so mindful about who you bring on as a franchise owner, Mary, I'd love to hear any advice, or when you're having a conversation with a potential franchise owner, the due diligence or the questions that you ask them when they're carefully thinking about joining. What would you say to that?
Well, I want to make sure that they enjoy working with kids. And I think that, that's key, but also, are they comfortable with the train the trainer model? Because when you buy a franchise, not only are you responsible for setting up the programs and, calling the different venues to get them set up.
Sure.
But you also have to find the instructors, and then you have to make sure the instructors are following the curriculum, because that's the biggest danger, is that if you get somebody who goes rogue and decides to use the equipment in ways that they're not supposed to, that can be a problem. So we have to make sure that they are able to they have to be good managers, or they have to be able to hire somebody who's a good manager. And that's what we really want to understand, is that, and then we also, it's not a part-time business. It's not a 2-3 hour a week business. And that's the other thing. I think sometimes people think franchises, even though they're turnkey, they think, well, why am I not doing well if I only, I spent, Friday afternoon each week working on this.
No.
So that's the thing. See, that's what you have to understand. And I don't mind if people will come in and have other commitments, and I get it, but then you better hire somebody who can run it for you.
Phenomenal advice. I agree with you. That is the makings of a great franchise, when you're willing to, or you're making sure that they make a commitment to that. If you're not going to do it, somebody else has to. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.